There are many infected that are pretty easy to actually use, such as, for an example, the Inferno, the Hunter, and a bunch of others. However, there are a bunch of other infected that are a little bit harder and downright very difficult to actually play and especially master. Let's go over them.
Number 24.
This may seem like a very questionable infected choice, but I say the number 5 hardest infected is by far the Chiller. Now you may be thinking, what? How's the Chiller hard? Well, the Chiller is kind of semi-difficult since there is a ton of maps that have a ton of scenery that basically give a huge counter to Chiller. So if you don't know, obviously, if the Chiller uses ability, a bunch of snowflakes just come spitting out of his mouth as like a frenzy or whatever, and if a snowflake were managed to be able to hit you, you instantly are frozen. Well, not frozen, are just basically stunned and are unable to move for like the next 3 to 4 seconds or so, even though it feels like a few decades. However, there's a pretty easy way to actually counter the Chiller, and that is the fact that you can just basically get like on a higher level than the Chiller, aka like get on top of a vehicle, go upstairs or something like that. And the other way to actually counter the Chiller is to basically hide behind an object, such as, for an example, a wall or probably like a rock or something like that. Realistically saying, Chiller is semi-difficult since there are so many maps that have those sceneries, such as like number 1, there is like construction site, like there are so many of those staircases, so literally you have to basically time it just right where a survivor is not as close to a staircase in order to get away from you. But also you have to consider the fact that while you're freezing or using your ability, any survivors nearby that you are unable to be paying attention to, or there are basically you're not even basically freezing them, like they're on top of a staircase, can still shoot you while you're in your ability phase and you're unable to do anything about it. Realistically saying, Chiller is a semi kind of way for the perfect time to jump out and basically freeze them while they're like in a really terrible spot. However, there is also the hey, let me wait to see if there's like a jeweler nearby or like a banshee or something like that. Realistically saying, the maps just kind of screw Chiller over.
Number 16.
Okay, so this one may be also a questionable one, but I probably have to say, and this is the Riot. Now, the Riot's ability allows him to charge, or basically go into a super fast charging speed where he cannot move, obviously, and he goes into a straight line at a super fast speed. And if he actually crashes into a survivor, he will phase through them. However, the survivor will be pushed a bit and will receive like 30 damage or so. This is a very strong ability. However, it is semi-difficult since of number 1, you have to actually, of course, semi-train yourself with it, because literally there is the chance that you may miss, aka when a survivor is consistently jumping all over the place and like moving side to side, and you basically have to predict where they're going to move next. This one is a little bit more difficult than the Juggernaut's one, and that's mainly because, well, literally if you were to you can literally get stuck on anything, and there are even some occasions where you will just completely phase through the survivor and they won't even get damage, which is just very questionable, and I don't know why that happens. But the most this actually does happen most of the times when a survivor has already been rioted charged his ability, and so a second riot can't do his charge, because that would obviously be kind of too brutal since they got riot charged and then another riot charge, so that'd be a little bit too brutal. So realistically saying, they get like an invisibility phase against another riot charge for like the next 6 seconds or so. But sometimes it happens where literally they didn't get riot charge and they won't even get damage. And there's also obviously the fact that literally sometimes you can just get crashed into nothing. Like, for an example, if you're playing the campaign map, those little plant cactuses on the ground, they can actually stun you for no reason. And there's also the fact that literally survivors can just counter you completely by, hiding behind a rock or jumping on top of something. And so you literally have to jump and riot charge and basically coordinate yourself very nicely.
Number 10.
Alright, so this one is a little bit more understanding, and this is the Juggernaut. If you don't know, the Juggernaut is by far the best infected in the entire game. and that is mainly because he is fast, he has a ton of HP, and his two abilities, aka one is a passive ability, are actually very good. His passive ability able to launch survivors up with like a nice punch every like 6 seconds, and his rock ability, which is picks up a boulder from sand and able to throw it at a survivor, stunning them and dealing a ton of damage. However, there is a little bit of difficulty doing the rock ability thing, and that is the fact that you really have to aim. Now in OG Juggernaut, OG Juggernaut, he had the aimbot thing, so all you had to do was just press the rock button and instantly any nearby survivor would just get rocked really easily, since literally the rock would get an aimbot on them and would immediately track them and just throw it at them at an extremely fast speed, and you really didn't have to do anything apart from just press the button. However, they nerfed him to where you literally have to aim with the rock, and there are a ton of difficulties with this. Number one is obviously survivors can just hide behind anything, but like hide behind obviously a rock, a wall, a bunch of those metal beams that are on the ground, or just go around the corner in order to completely counter your rock. However, the other one is a little bit more easier to actually do and a little bit more trickier, since depending on the Juggernaut's experience, and that is juking the Juggernaut, aka going from side to side, jumping, and basically trying to trick the Juggernaut to thinking where you're going to go next and what move you're about to do, so they can mess up their rock throws so you completely counter their ability. Realistically saying, you just have to continuously practice with the rock throw, even though it takes a long time, and I'm still not even a master at it. It takes a while, since there are so many counters to scenery, and especially the fact that survivors can easily counter it in many ways or shape or form.
Number 7.
This one's a little bit more expected, which I'm pretty sure, and that is the Banshee and her ability. So if you don't know, obviously the Banshee, when she gets enraged, she immediately gets pissed off and basically does so much damage with her claws and a very extremely fast speed. She travels and she can jump super high up, and her ability is very, very good. However, it is pretty kind of difficult to actually master this, since number one, similarly to like the Chiller's one, if you instantly press your ability button, you are unable to move, and you basically use your ability no matter what direction you're looking. However, unlike the Chiller, the Chiller can actually be in first person and just like look around and basically shoot wherever their snowflakes can go. However, for the Banshee, you basically, as soon as you press your button, aka ability action, you are unable to move, unable to look around, and you basically have to suffer, basically missing for like the next 3 to 4 seconds while survivors get a clean, nice headshot, a bunch of headshot hit points on you with like a spaz or something. That is super brutal. However, this ability does have a lot of positives, since the fact that it is very powerful and it can basically do a chain reaction to so many survivors. It's a very nice upside. However, it takes a little bit of skill to actually basically master it, since number one, obviously, as literally you can't use it through walls, and survivors can easily just hide behind something, especially juke you as well. I forgot to also mention that for the Riot one, I'm not too sure, but they can try to juke you and to think like where they're going and shit. And also, since you're a Banshee, their primary instinct is to run as fast as possible and try to avoid your damage with your claws. So realistically saying, combining that with your ability, it makes it pretty difficult to actually use your ability, since as soon as you press it, you are unable to move and unable to do anything, and this can literally be the final second you have with the Banshee. Realistically saying, it's a little bit more harder to actually play the Banshee, especially since they're all shooting on you as soon as they see you're pissed, since you're literally a huge threat to them and they want to get rid of you immediately.
Number 1.
Check this out.
The hardest infected, I believe, in my opinion, is the Tangler. This guy has by far been the most hardest one, I believe, out of all of them, and I'm still not a master on him because it's basically still hard. So for an example, how do you play the Tangler? Well, you just point and shoot, pretty much basically easy. However, the hitboxes are sometimes a bit wonky on survivors. So for an example, let's say you hit a survivor's foot. Sometimes the game won't even register that, you hit their foot and will just count it as, well, you just hit nothing. And sometimes you literally didn't even hit them and it counts. It's like, wait, what? I hit that? How did I hit that? It wasn't even close to them. See, their hitboxes are a bit wonky for whatever reason, probably due to like internet connection issues or server stuff, but realistically saying, it's a little bit wonky. And the next thing is, well, I mean, since their hitboxes are a bit wonky, they are basically obviously going to be moving around a lot, jumping all the time, and you basically have to practice on what move they're going to make next, such as the fact, are they going to jump, are they going to jump around the corner, are they going to move to the left, are they going to move to the right, and it just causes a whole lot of problems. Especially the fact that literally as soon as you miss, you are unable to move for like a second, and you have to deal with a 6-second cooldown in order to basically use it again. And also the fact that when you miss, they can see where you shot from, and yeah, you can see where that basically goes from there. And realistically saying, there's also, the map scenery hitboxes to where they literally, you're like, what? How did that hit the map? That should have hit the dude. Or sometimes there's also the fact that literally you hit them, but for whatever reason it just didn't count. And realistically saying, they know for a fact that when they see a chiller, they'll immediately try to juke and basically jump around, move around, and aim at you at all times. The only tips I can say is to basically wait for the perfect time when they're gonna heal or they're frozen, and to strike. This Infected is by far the hardest one to play and especially master.
Lost and so afraid. Never had a home. I turned to darkest shade.